What's up, everybody? We're going to start weather and climate. This is 5.8a, weather and climate. The TEK is to differentiate between weather and climate, so to know the difference between weather and climate. A couple of key concepts. Key concept number one is weather refers to the daily environmental conditions we experience around us. Key concept number two, climate refers to the average conditions in a place over a longer period of time. And key concept number three, weather can be observed each day, whereas climate must be observed over time. So those are the big three key concepts that you'll need to really understand in order to be able to differentiate between weather and climate. So first, weather is what happens daily. So whenever I'm thinking about weather, I'm thinking about what is happening on that day as I look outside my window, what is happening in the environment daily. So it describes the daily condition of the air outdoors, such as the temperature, cloud cover, wind speed, humidity, which is the amount of water vapor in the air, and precipitation. So if I'm looking at my window right now, we just had a really big snowstorm, so I see snow, and it's very cold outside, and that is the weather. That's what's happening daily. So all weather is caused by the sun heating the earth unevenly, creating high and low pressure air masses that interact and bring fair or stormy weather. Seasonal changes in weather are also caused by the uneven heating of the Earth's surface, which receives varying amount of direct and indirect sunlight due to the tilt of the Earth as it revolves around the sun. So you'll remember, if you think back to revolution and rotation, that the Earth revolves around the sun, and because of that tilt and the revolution, we have seasons. And so when our northern hemisphere is tilted away from the sun, then we're in winter, which we are right now. And then when it's tilted towards the sun, we're in summer. So because the sun doesn't heat the earth evenly as it kind of goes around, that creates these air masses, these pockets of high and low pressure air that kind of will move across the planet. And what you'll see is that high pressure normally will bring clear skies, and low pressure tends to be more associated with rain. So in the corner, you'll see that high pressure map. It's got the high pressures kind of moving in to the Utah area. So that means that probably there's going to be clear skies. And then you've got that low pressure down at the bottom of the map that's going to bring probably some rain or some stormy activity to the Gulf Coast area. Climate, on the other hand, so weather is daily and climate is an average. So climate refers to the average conditions in a place over a long period of time. So weather is what's going to happen right outside, what you're going to feel when you go right outside your house in this moment. But climate is the average. So what are you most likely to feel? So when weather data trends are analyzed over 30-year period, generalizations about climate conditions for that region can be inferred. So we know that there are certain regions on the planet that are going to be cold for long periods of time. That doesn't necessarily mean there's not going to be a sunny day or a warmer day. It's just odds are it's going to be cold, or odds are it's going to be rainy, or odds are, you know, there's going to be a tropical environment. That's the average of what it normally is over a given period of time. This creates global climate zones. All right, there's distinct climate zones that are created by global circulation patterns divided on the Earth. The warmest, wettest regions of the globe are the tropics. So those are going to be right in the middle because that's where the sun is constantly going to be hitting, so right around that equator line. And then as it moves towards the poles, so towards the North and South Pole, you're going to get progressively colder. So think about it like this. If you're packing for a vacation and you're going to Canada, you might bring jeans, pants, long sleeve shirts, maybe a jacket, those kinds of clothing. That's not to say that it's not going to be hot there, but on average, it's going to be a little bit chillier than, let's say, if you were going to vacation in Australia, which if you're looking at that climate zone, the global climate zone map, you'll see Australia is normally going to be a little bit sunnier. It's going to have milder weather. It's going to be hot, so you are going to pack your clothes differently based off of those averages. That's not to say that you couldn't go to Australia and it could be rainy or it could be a little bit chilly that day. But on average, Australia is going to be warm and the further up north you go, like with Canada and further, it's going to be colder. All right, so now we have to talk about the difference between the two. The difference between weather and climate, the main difference is the time period that they're being calculated. So climate and weather, it's the amount of time observed. Weather is what is observed daily. So when you watch the news and the weatherman comes on, or the meteorologist, he's telling you a forecast of what's probably going to happen that day, what might happen tomorrow, maybe even 7 to 14 days they predict what the weather's going to be like. So weather is daily, whereas climate is going to be what an average is like. So it's over a longer period of time. And I mean longer period, like maybe years, 30 years, etc. It takes a lot to establish those, a lot of time to establish those climate zones. And so climate is going to be a long period of time. And when I'm thinking about climate, I'm thinking about words like average. Okay. So here we've got an example of the climate of the southeast Gulf Coast on the United States. It's normally very warm. Think of like Florida, Alabama coast area. It's normally a tropical, it's humid, lots of rain. However, on any particular day, the weather still may be cold and icy, even if the description of the climate is tropical. So what's that saying is that, you know, every now and then Florida's going to get kind of cold. On average, it's going to have a tropical feel to it, but you might, you know, kind of plan and go down there and it's going to be cold. The climate is tropical, even though the weather that day can be chilly. So if you're looking at the graph below, it kind of shows the month, January through November, the temperature, how much precipitation, how much snowfall, wind speed, and number of clear days that month. So it just kind of gives you an average of what's going on each day. That's the typical climate of Florida during those times. All right, so now let's practice. I see this picture here. I want you to think to yourself, what do you see, and try to determine if this is a picture of weather or if this is a picture of climate. I'm going to talk you through kind of the first ones, but I'm seeing really large trees, kind of looks like a park, sunny day, people are out. I see a lot of green grass, so I can kind of infer that this place gets either a lot of water, so they're either watering a lot or it's raining a lot. Judging by the size of those trees, it's probably a little bit of both. So because I see sunny skies, it's clear in the park, lots of green plants and trees, this is an example of weather. This is an example of weather. So this is just a daily example of what weather might look like. It's a sunny day, people are out enjoying that day, and this is an example of weather. Okay, this is another picture. Looks like you're on a beach setting. I kind of see some sand and then the ocean, and then off in the distance I see an island. The island's covered in, it looks like some green foliage and some rocks. The clouds, looks like there's a few clouds in the sky. The sun is out, but this does seem to be kind of a tropical place, a tropical feel to it. Because what I see is blue skies with few clouds, it looks warm. I can see that sun is shining. It looks like a tropical island. This is going to be an example of climate. So this would be climate. Most likely, this is the typical climate of this area over an extended period of time, and that's kind of how you can tell the difference. The weather there would be sunny, but on average, it's probably consistently going to be a sunny, warm, tropical climate. Okay, here we've got, let's see, I've got a cactus, blue skies, partly cloudy, lots of dirt. It looks like some kind of desert foliage is around, so I'm going to infer that there's not a lot of rain. So just by looking at this picture, I can kind of tell that it's going to be a picture of a climate. This is a climate area. You can just kind of tell that the weather stays pretty consistent, probably sunny, not a lot of rain. So this is a picture of what a climate would look like. Okay, in this one I see some branches are bent. I see water, precipitation falling from the sky. Those bent branches make me think that it's windy, so this looks like could be a pretty heavy rain or storm. Because of that, I'm going to say that this is weather. So this would be a picture of weather, of what's going on outside right now. Because of how big the trees and stuff look in the background, I'm sure that There's a lot of rain and things going on, but this is going to be a picture of weather. All right, so now I have two pictures. One is a 10-day forecast. It looks like it's going to be sunny and then partly cloudy, moving into some rain, possibly snow within the next 10 days. So because this is a 10-day forecast and it shows me what's going to be happening daily, that word right there, daily, this is going to be weather. Okay, daily is associated with weather. And then I have another picture here off to the side of looks like different kind of climate zones. I know that tropical zone is right on the equator where the sun is constantly hitting that evenly. I know it gets colder as the further I go up north, so there's the polar zone at each of the poles. So the different zones relative to the location of Earth, the zone gets colder as you move towards the poles. This is going to be an example of climate. So on average, those polar zones are going to be really cold. And then the temperate zones are going to have some moderate weather about them. And then on average, those tropical zones, the weather's probably going to be humid and hot. And that's going to be the climate that it's going to have for an extended period of time. So those tropical zones, temperate zones, you can kind of make an assumption of what that weather's going to be like over a long period of time, because the climate says that normally this is what it's going to be like every day. All right, so if I'm going to differentiate between the two, between weather and climate, I've got weather on the one side of the screen and then climate on the other, and then I have all these choices at the bottom. So the average yearly rainfall in Hawaii is 78 inches, okay? The key word in that is average, all right, average. That makes me think of climate. The average yearly rainfall in Hawaii is 78 inches, so I would probably place that in climate. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf Coast. Well, you know, hurricanes and other, you know, natural phenomenon aren't necessarily a part of the climate, so that just kind of happened. That's normally going to be associated with weather. When looking at the precipitation in the desert over time, we notice that the desert is very dry. And so the keywords there are over time. If we're looking at it over time, then that's going to be associated with climate. It is usually raining in Seattle. Usually raining in Seattle. The key word there is usually, which means most of the time. That's going to be climate. Jenny's roof sprang a leak last week because of all the rain. What do you think? Last week, the rain, Jenny's roof got a leak. If you went with weather, that's correct. The average low temperature for Austin, Texas is 56 degrees Fahrenheit. So keyword there is average. That means they had to take a lot of data and kind of average it together. That's going to be climate. Arizona is dry most of the time. Most of the time. So keyword there is most of the time. That implies that they had to take a lot of data and kind of look to see where the moisture was, and Arizona's dry most of the time. So that's its climate. It was cloudy and rainy all weekend. That's weekend implies a short period of time, so that's going to be weather. I hope you guys have a better understanding about how to differentiate between weather and climate. See you guys later.